Good evening, everyone. It is a huge pleasure to be back after Marine and Ribs did an awesome job last week. Ribs is back as well. He's also back in the country. And then, of course, we have the man, Elvis. Elvis from ONDU Pinhole, who has dialed in very kindly from Slovenia to talk about pinhole film photography. Let's start with Ribs first. Ribs, how was America?
America was great. Well, New York specifically was great. I can't speak for the rest of the country, unfortunately, because things are not that great everywhere else.
But your Instagram feed during that time looked freaking great.
Yeah. No, I had a fantastic time seeing some family and friends, and of course, eating all the amazing things that New York has to offer.
Brilliant. And now you're self-isolating and printing
I'm
photos.
in my 2 week sentence, so hopefully, time goes by a bit faster.
Perfect. And then Elvis, welcome, man. It is awesome to have you on. You are like one of the pinhole kings over the last few years. So as soon as we were talking with Marina as well about like having a whole session on pinhole film photography, definitely wanted to get you involved. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. So you told me just before we started that you had just finished in the workshop, and I thought you meant like for the day, but you meant like for a while.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So the idea was this year to make a big batch of cameras and then take some time to do other stuff. And what those other things are, I really don't know yet, but it's yeah. And today was actually today, yeah.
That is amazing. Hang on a minute. I'm going to use one of our really high-tech sound effects. There we go. Congratulations on stockpiling the cameras. So do you want people to like write in with suggestions of what you now do, or are you going to decide? I mean, we can do this either way.
I think I just need a break now without thinking about anything. But yeah.
Okay, in an hour, like think for an hour, and then you cannot think for anything because you've got to do the first bit. So what we're going to do this evening is we're going to talk about the mechanics of pinhole. And some of the cameras, not Elvis's of course, but also the other sort of options you can do to make some pinholes. We'll talk about some of the photos that we've all taken, some of Elvis's favourites from his customers, and the films that are great for pinhole. And of course, we have a competition to finalise, to reveal the winners. So I was speaking to Elvis yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, we'll do a competition, pinhole photos, some film." He was like, "Why not a camera as well?" I mean, legend. So that's massive. That'll be coming as well. I know as well there are several people in the chat. I can see Andrew Bartram, hello, good evening, who are well-known pinhole photographers. So if there's any questions and we aren't sort of answering them in there, just feel free to throw it in the chat and I'm sure he'll cover. The other point I wanted to make before we start is I've seen Ben Mills is in the comments, Hip Shoot Film. He needs a huge amount of sympathy because apparently he got a wasp sting this week and it was his first ever one, which at the age of, I mean, I don't know how old he is, so I'm going to say 43. That's pretty, that must have been a bit of a shock. So, Ben, I hope you're well, man. Right then, let's get stuck in. Elvis, how do pinholes work? What is a pinhole camera?
Well, it's magic.
And only wizards can make them, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, essentially it's probably the oldest method of making images or projecting them in a way. A pinhole camera, or Latin, it's called camera obscura, which means a dark room or a dark chamber. It's essentially anything can become a camera, a room, any place that has the capacity to hold light and then project it inside can become a primitive camera. And it might not yield impressive results in a way, but if you train your mind to see pinhole cameras everywhere, you can actually do it. So that's kind of the basic behind it. So essentially, a black box or a room or wherever it is, a cave that has a aperture on one side, it turns into a pinhole camera. And in our case, we make essentially really nice glorified wooden boxes with the help of magnets and aluminum and brass and so on and so forth to produce an image on film. And the way it works, for those of you who don't have any experience with pinhole, is that in the case of ONDU, we have tiny laser drilled pinholes which project the image onto the film plane, and you regulate your exposure time by opening or closing the shutter, and you calculate your exposure time by knowing the f-stop equivalent of the camera. And because we don't have a lens to focus the light, to concentrate the beam of light coming from the outside inside, the f-stop equivalents are much higher than, for instance, if you would have a lensed camera. So, for instance, this 6x6, the f-stop equivalent is 167, which means the exposure times are going to be way longer than with your regular camera. And this gives you get two benefits from it. One is longer time, which means you can capture things which are usually difficult to capture through a lens camera if you don't have ND filters and so on and so forth. And the other one is that the relative sharpness of the image is pretty much infinite. So the closest object and the farthest object that you're shooting has the same sharpness or unsharpness, and that's really, really particular for pinhole cameras.
Yeah, because the way of, like, in the history of photography, pinhole was sort of the way people started, and then people created lenses to try and bring in more light and then to focus it more accurately and that kind of thing. While you were talking, actually, it reminded me that people might have seen, and I'm going to flip to screen share, which is brave in any situation. Oh, no, we're good. People might have heard of Brendan Barry. This is his website here. He's made some incredibly creative pinholes at various times. This is one where him and a team in Manhattan, I think it is, Empire State Building, turned an entire floor of a skyscraper into a pinhole camera. You can see it there. Yeah. And their pinhole was slightly bigger, and they actually cheated and used what looks like a little bit of a lens to try and do it, but basically letting in a light, and then you see this image upside down that they then captured and photographed. And people have done it with pumpkins, people have done it with, actually there's somebody else who, Delusions of Competence, sent me a message a few months ago, people might have seen this, where he turned the packaging of Analogue Wonderland into a pinhole camera and took photos, which just blows my mind. Because basically, I think what you're saying is, the only thing that people need to make pinholes as a basic is a hole and light sealed box and some film or something that can accept it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would really encourage everyone, if you have a window that faces to south or whatever, that you can see something really bright, and you have the capacity to block out everything, I would really encourage everybody, like during the summer days, and especially now if you don't have anywhere to go or whatever, just get some cardboard and some. It doesn't have to be pretty; it just has to be completely dark, and then start with, I don't know, aperture this big, and then as your eyes get acclimatized to the low light, you can go smaller and smaller, and eventually you'll have the whole outside projected inside your room, upside down, in color. And that's really amazing. Like I personally believe every photographer should experience being inside a dark room, inside a pinhole camera for themselves. Like it's mind-boggling. Like the first time I made an actual room, completely that I made a pinhole camera outside of a room, it was. My mind did not grasp what was happening. It was so crazy for me because up until that point, I was only shooting black and white on photographic paper, and then I saw colors moving. It was in a playground here close to town, and it really took probably 10 seconds for me to realize that the image is upside down, and it's really.
It is funny how you put it. You say you're inside of a camera, and that's literally exactly what it is. You're inside of a damn camera.
Well, here we
it's
go.
weird to think about.
This is part of your 2-week isolation. You can make your flat a camera. And actually, I've seen Andrew Bartram's penned and said that they had Brendan Barry on his podcast, large format photography podcast, which is brilliant. So and then apart from then a room. Well, hang on a sec. How do you go from being inside a camera to an ONDU? So what have you? So we say, like, you can make a pinhole out of a cardboard box. We could everyone on the chat here could stand up and find things in the room to make a camera out of, a working film camera. First of all, talk a little bit about how you then turn that into something that's a bit more reliable, going to give you the best results, and what ultimately ended up as a beautiful wood-crafted machine.
It was really interesting how it all started. I kind of discovered pinhole photography maybe in probably like 13 or 14 years ago. I was maybe 19 or 18 years old, something like that. And back then on the internet, there wasn't that much info about pinhole photography in general. There was one website, one forum called f295.org. So that's where I went to go to get my info.
One website.
That's where all the people kind of congregated. Like there's a few like old guys they're still really good pinhole photographers already from back in the days. And I would used to get tips from them, you know. Everybody would make a camera and post it and so on and so forth. And this was before 3D printers and CNCs and lasers and so on. And it was mostly cardboard. Some people would go into wood, and like there wasn't much. There was very, very few people. And it kind of went from there. I studied industrial design at the university here in Ljubljana. And upon going for my exchange in Poland, I had access to working shop, and kind of my professor encouraged me to do more of pinhole photography there, and kind of showed me the ways of woodworking a little bit. And he was actually the guy who came up with the magnets to close the back. He showed me, he's like, oh, you know, we have these magnets, you can try to put them so you don't have screws and knobs and stuff like that on your camera. And so, Piotr Bożyk is the professor that showed the magnets.
Because I'm not going to, we don't want this necessarily turn into a total ONDU just love fest, although ultimately I am a fully signed up thing. One of the things I remember messaging you actually when you did the latest Kickstarter, I was like, love the magnets. The problem with the Mark II was that if you get it wrong, it can take your finger off. I mean, if you're putting this like this, I don't know whether people can see this, hang on. Like the force with which this bad boy closes, when it shuts in, that is strong to pull apart. So have you played around with things like that over time and tweaked the design? And
I just added some felt baffles, and you take away some of the force, so when they close, it's not so strong, but it's still enough.
And with the pinhole itself, like the first way I was taught, and people can still do it now, is you get a piece of tin foil or aluminium can, isn't it? Aluminium can. You wash out a Coke can or a beer can or whatever. You get a very thin. You do literally a pin through it, and then just sandpaper the other side, and that is approximately the size of the right aperture. You presumably do it slightly more intricately. So is that where the lasers come in?
Yeah, we use lasers to drill the apertures. They're really, really high precision lasers, and they kind of you can go really, really, really precise with which size you want to have.
How much smaller is that than, let's say, like a needle pin or something, like a physical pin? Is it significantly smaller or similar?
Just like the tip in, probably. The new ones have 0.15 millimeters aperture.
Yeah.
So it's really, really tiny.
And is there a common size that it should be for the best image? Because after a small point, and again I'm getting a little bit into my physics degree, like you get refraction and you get interactions within it, right?
Yeah, there's a limit to how low you can go, because at one point it just starts diffracting really, really a lot. And there's I think Lord Rayleigh or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he did the calculations for the optimum aperture giving the focal length. So, but there's more kind of clubs, let's say, in the pinhole photography. Some people really like their image sharp, and they go for maximum sharpness, which ends up sometimes diffracting and causing it inevitably to become too soft. And some people like kind of the soft kind of feel to it, which ends up coming closer to maybe looking like a zone plate, which I never went into because it's a different world altogether. But the important thing with pinhole photography is just to have fun. Like, don't do the technicalities. You can get a proper camera and so on and enjoy it and have, you know, a reliable tool and whatnot. But I think it's really important for people to experiment, to have fun, to just, you know, go out there, take your box, a shoe box, tape it, make a hole, even in the cardboard, in the paper. You don't even have to have a, you know, an aperture inside a tin can or whatever. It's gonna work.
Yeah.
So,
and do you need a certain distance from? How do you think about like the distance from the hole to the film?
It all depends on the size of the film. So if the bigger the film, the wider it is, the closer it gets. So, and also you can put it curved, so you get different stuff, or you can put it in a roll, put your film or photographic paper in a roll and put the aperture on the top. And so you get exposures from all sides, from 360 and stuff like that.
Whoa, Ribs, what is your experience of pinhole so far?
My first pinhole was a Holga pinhole. I bought one of those big panorama ones. I actually don't have it with me, unfortunately. I left it in New York. I had big plans for it in New York, and I ended up not using it at all. But that was my first, and it was great because I got to shoot 6x9, but also 6x12. It had like 2 different masks. So it was great to mess around with that and like just get these massive negatives. And I got lucky you'll see the photos at some point, but I got really lucky the day I went out in New York City. This was probably like a year and a half ago. And then recently I got myself a 35 millimeter pinhole, which I haven't used too much, unfortunately, just because I've been doing all kinds of stuff, but big fan of that as well. What I really want to do, though, is what you were saying in terms of photographic paper, just stick whole sheets of printing paper in there and then do some reversal processing or whatever. That might be my project now while I'm serving my sentence, so we'll see.
And when you have your Holger and you have other things, do you have any of the like high-end nicer cameras or?
No, I haven't. I'll admit I was kind of like I fell backwards into pinhole. I was always like, that's interesting, but like, why would I pay so much money for something? And then now that I've matured and I've like learned things, I fully see the value of like a really well-made, like nice pinhole camera, even though a pinhole camera theoretically could be the same as any other one. But yeah, I haven't jumped into that, but I'll be treating myself at some point for sure.
Okay, yeah. You submitted some images to the competition. Invalid as a
exactly.
Judge. It's a good try. We've also been joined by Mr. Sam Cornwell of Sodacan, which obviously is a pinhole camera on that takes it directly onto positive. So yeah, Sam, welcome as well. Okay, then. Well, let's have a look. Actually, while you were saying that, so I'm just going to pull up, Ribs, your photos. You can talk through sort of how you approached it, because it does require, I think, maybe a creative approach. So it's up right now. So you've got your first photo.
The first one, that's the one with the pylons.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So both of the photos you'll see are very classic places to go in New York City. The one with the pylons is extremely popular because of the pylons specifically, and everybody does long exposures there. So I figured, if it's a long exposure kind of like centric place, a pinhole camera must be fantastic for this. And I went later in the day, kind of towards sunset, and it was a very overcast day. So I ended up getting really good drama in the sky. And then the water came out exactly as I expected, and the pylons really shone really, really nicely. And then, again, I shot this on the Holga panoramic. So this was a 6x9 negative. So I really got to fit like the entire composition there. And I think there's a bit of luck with pinhole because, you can't really see. I mean, you can use your level and things like that, but you don't really know exactly what you're going to get. So I kind of just went for it. And I think I got lucky here with my composition. Especially from the left to right. But yeah, this was just chill. Brought a little tripod, posted up. There's a bunch of rocks there, as you can see, but I was on the second level. And I definitely looked a little strange because you go to this spot, there's usually a lot of tourists, and it's everybody with their Sony A7 25 and like, all the really fancy stuff and all this gear and really bright stuff tripod. And here I was with like my little like fake Manfrotto like mini pod and like this like really plasticky cheap film camera, pinhole at that. And I bet you my image is the best one that was taken that day. I guarantee it.
And were you like you were moving everyone out of the way, like, hey guys, I need a clear shot of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, a real photographer coming through.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. All right then. And what film are you using?
Oh, I think this is actually lomography. I forget which one, but it is a lomography roll. My hunch is 100, but I'm not totally sure.
No worries. And then the second one. Whoa.
Yeah, the second one is not too far from the first location. It's probably like a 5-10 minute walk, and it's this thing they call Pebble Beach, just a little like fake beachy, rocky area on the Brooklyn side, facing towards Manhattan. And that's actually that exact location where I took that photo is where I plan to get married. It's supposed to happen this year, but everything's been postponed until next year. So there's a little rocky beach there. It's much more habitable than it looks there, but yeah, it's a very like really cute like section of the park, and behind me. So look at what I'm looking at, and then imagine standing behind me. There's a bunch of seating area. A lot of tourists go hang out there, and I go there all the time just because every single time you're gonna get a different sky, and it's just a beautiful scene. And I used to do a lot of compositing with digital photography, so that's why I would always go there with my tripod and do all this. So again, this time it was nice to go and bring a tripod, but for a completely different reason. And again, the sky was doing its thing that night, so I got a little bit of texture, a little bit of color. I got lucky there, but yeah, very, very happy with that shot. Honestly, I think these are the only two good pinhole photography like images I've ever taken. So you're seeing them right here.
Well, everyone is absolutely loving it in the comments. And then how did you, with exposure, did you carefully calculate it, or did you do a bit of a? This is about right.
If you know me, you know that I just kind of like I do some quick thinking, and then I'm like, all right, let's wing it, see what happens. My assumption here, I was somewhere around 20 seconds or something like that, and I was using the indicator on the back of the camera. It has like text about if it's cloudy, do this. If it's sunny, do that. So I kind of took that and then multiplied by like 1.5, and I was like, I can't overexpose it, can I? And yeah, I got lucky. I definitely edited this a bit. I probably added some contrast and maybe like brought the highlight in the sky down a little bit, but you know that's part of the game as well. I've never printed neither of these shots because the negatives are so big. I haven't been to a darkroom that has the holder for this size, or at least my own darkroom doesn't have that. So one day I'm like super excited to print both of these images, but I have yet to do so. That's my last and final step there.
No, it's incredible. Elvis, have you been able to see this as well?
Yeah.
What do you think of Ribs' only 2 good photos he's ever taken on Pinhole?
I think there's a career for you in pinhole photography.
No, that's easy, man.
Well, actually,
a beautiful place and take a photo.
One of the things I was thinking was, so have you booked your pinhole photography for the wedding?
Oh, my photographers are only going to be shooting pinhole, handheld. Like,
or like before the ceremony,
3200.
you walk to the back of it and like open a shutter, and then you're like, right, we can carry on with the ceremony now.
Yeah, just do one massive, long, like 10-minute exposure.
Need to set a timer. Yeah. Amazing. Oh no, thank you so much. They are absolutely brilliant. Elvis, you had shared some photos as well, so let me just jump to yours. And what you've done is you've sent me some of your favorite ones that your customers, your community, and then you've got some of your personal ones at the end. So let's go through. So number 1, the horse. I mean, I love this.
Yeah, that's from Jean-Luc. I think he's from France. This shot was, I think, shot in Kyrgyzstan. They had a horse riding kind of adventure. And he made a whole series, but this one stood out for me because just the movement of the horse and everything, how he timed everything, and also given the fact that there's no viewfinder whatsoever. And this one was the best from the series that stood out for me. But also, I would like to point out that it's really difficult for me to choose. This was like, okay, let's put some favorites, but all the other ones who are listening, because there's literally thousands and thousands of pictures out there on Instagram, they don't get offended that we didn't point them out.
No. I will just clarify that when I said to Elvis, can you send me like 5 of your favorite photos from your customers to put in? He sent me a folder on Google Drive of about 35. and so I had to like literally pin him down before we started and say you need to pick some. So yeah, we enjoyed the hour before talking about them. No, that's incredible, and like you can see, as you say, the composition, the vignetting in the sides, really, really stunning. And then to the second one, the sunset.
Yeah, this is Steven Boilars. He's from, I think he's from the Netherlands. And he's been with, like, I've been seeing his photographs, I think, since Mark 1. So he's, like, I've seen his work, and it really stands out because a lot of the times he takes the pinhole diffractions into account into the actual shot. And sometimes these diffraction can be really they can ruin the picture, or they can make the shot. And I always say that he's the pinhole flare master, because I don't know how he does it, but he can anticipate how the shot is gonna look. And I'm a really technical guy, and I really enjoy seeing high technicalities come up with an actually good result in the end. So that was him.
No, that's gorgeous. Ribs, are you following along? Are you able to see this as well?
Yeah, no, I can see it on the. I'm watching on my iPhone here, and that photo's awesome. It reminds me of a lot of beautiful sunset stuff I've seen in digital photography. It has this just like pop to it, which I feel like film sometimes falls flat when you do that, and the pinhole somehow manages to control it and like make it look better than you would on a normal camera.
Yeah.
And then the third one, very different.
Yeah, this is from Martin Martinson. I'm not exactly sure where he's from, but this shot and quite a few of his appeared in the Flickr stream that we have like a ONDU Pinhole photo group. And this was shot with the 4x5 with because they're compatible with the Polaroid 545 back, and it's shot on some expired film. I don't know what it is, but just how he managed to get it almost completely central, and then with the curve and the finished road is just like the tonality and everything flows perfectly for me.
Yeah, I mean the colors feel very vintage, but the sharpness is impressive as well. You look at the building on the left, like you haven't got that sort of traditional pinhole just sort of fading towards the sides.
It also helps that it's a large format, so
yeah. And then number 4, waterfall, a classic pinhole subject.
Yeah, this is Lance Roth. I think he's from the States. He is the master of golden hour pinhole photography. I don't think I've seen a single shot, maybe one, that it's not in the golden hour, like in the mornings or in the evenings. And he lives in really stunning places. And he is also like, he has a really good eye and can just really anticipate how the shot is going to look like. He does post-process his images, and he doesn't hide the fact. He goes into detail, and I think from this shot also he posted a 100% crop of the actual image so that people can see like what the pinhole can actually do.
Yeah.
It's not just, it can make mediocre photos. It can make really high proper prints in the end. So yeah, he's one of my favorites also.
I mean, this I could look at this all day.
Yeah, that's classic. That's classic landscape stuff right there. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is just making me feel inadequate. All right then, number 5. And the traffic.
Yeah, this is the next 2 pictures. I think both are from Charles Strieber. And the first ONDU he got, he immediately nailed it. Like in the Mark II, the 6x12, the first series I remember seeing from him was just like, holy, this dude gets it. Like he's so good and consistently good always. And just today, when we were choosing these photos, I was thinking about this one. Also from our yesterday's talk about pinhole photography and photons and so on. To me, it's just so amazing to see like the passing of time in this photo and how many people were in this shot.
Yeah.
With this duration, I think it was 45 minutes, if I remember correctly, if my memory isn't fuzzy. But how many people had to contribute to get here? And I don't know, to me, just the passing of time and our, like, how short we live and everything, it just adds up in this photo. Like, it just brings me the feels, even though I'm not a city person or whatever, but I really enjoy this shot.
I think that's a really interesting point as well, the fact that how often do you see a photo of traffic lights where the red and the green are both equal?
Yeah.
You know, you're not just seeing, as you say, the passage of time, you're seeing the interaction of that junction in a way that, 45 minutes is the only sort of way you'd be able to see that. Yet the background is well exposed. The sky comes through without being overwhelming or totally boring. Like,
yeah.
And you say that I think we talked about this very briefly beforehand. Well, actually, let's go to the sixth one if it's the same guy, and then we can talk about it. This one, I mean, oof. Another road one, but a very different one.
It's completely different. I think the wispy sky made it. Like the sheer contrast of the hardcore pavement, even though the pavement itself is soft, but you you can see the grittiness and the kind of graininess of it compared to the thickness of the clouds, and also the warm cold contrast. Like the pinhole does have this edge that it can enhance colors in a way. And I'm not sure how much he post-processes work, but I don't think much at all.
Yeah. I'm curious. I feel like with the traffic shot and then this shot and even my own shots, these are all photos that I feel like you see a lot of, especially in digital photography. And I'm curious what your thought is. Like, sometimes I feel that just the fact that you take the photo or you make the photo on an actual pinhole camera completely changes the value of it. It like adds this whole character, and it makes it more interesting than it would be otherwise. And I don't know, is that like a fair thought, do you think, or are we like reading too much into the fact that it's film and it's a pinhole as opposed to any other, like a digital camera, like your iPhone, whatever?
No, I think it does something completely different. Like I have lens cameras, I have large format, medium formats, whatever. But every time I shoot pinholes, it's different. Like it just has a different vibe to it. And I don't think we can just say like, oh, it's just because of this or that. But it has a different kind of,
Well, say what you said to me on the phone yesterday when you were talking about why for you pinhole is special.
Yeah, we were talking about daytime pinhole photography. We kind of apply the same thing to a night shot, for instance. But for me, the most amazing thing is that we have the sun out there in space, and it's spewing photons towards us, and that photon happened to bounce on that particular object and flew to the camera unobstructed. It didn't even touch a lens or anything, and then it baked onto the film in a way. And what are the odds? In a way, it's happening nonstop. It's like we don't see these things, but to me it's just so special to see that there's a possibility of capturing this. We do that with digital and everything and so on and so forth, but this is, and I really like the rawness of the pinhole shot.
I tell you what though, so I agree with you entirely. I put the question up just because like I wonder sometimes, but I haven't heard it described the way you just did, about literally like one of those photons came through however long it takes. What is it, 93 million, whatever light years or whatever. The point is, the coincidence of that photon interacting with the film that's in your pinhole without being impeded in any way. I mean, that's romantic at a point, It takes it to a whole other level when you think about it that way.
It's romantic physics, the best kind of physics.
Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. The photon has been captured and it's only touched one thing, and that one thing that the photon's touched is what you're taking the photo of.
Exactly.
Gorgeous. Okay then, and one thing that I wanted to pick up on there was what you said as well, Elvis. Was you said, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the guy's name who took those last two photos.
Charles Streetboard.
Charles. And you said it was his first time taking pinhole, or he picked it up really fast. You said something about that. Do you think there's people who sort of find it easy to see in a pinhole way, or is it like, does it come from people who have already done photography? What's been your observations?
I don't know the background of most people, but sometimes you just see people who, when they get a camera and the first when they tag on Instagram, you immediately see like, okay, this person gets it. Like they doesn't matter what tool they have, but it's if you have a good eye, if you can visualize, and if you take the time to actually understand what's happening, and because we don't have any viewfinders or anything and so forth, I don't know what to put it to, but it's just some people are good at what they do, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
And do you must have taken a lot of pinhole over the years, personally, and then also testing your cameras. When you have a pinhole camera in front of you versus a lensed camera, it feels weird saying this now, but it's like there's crazy ones that have like focus rings and stuff, like aperture choices. Are you in a different mindset? Are you seeing things compositionally different?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I over the years, I've grown to understand and know what's gonna look okay in a shot. And last year, I don't know how many films I've shot, but probably in the range of 15 rolls or something, or 20, on my van trip to the Balkans. I would kind of know already what's gonna be okay and what's not gonna be okay. But sometimes you also get surprises, obviously. Especially using filters and so on, like that I haven't done much. But you can train yourself to see the world through a pinhole kind of way.
And are there, someone in the comments has mentioned a couple of times about using slide film in particular. Have you shot with slide film? Because obviously it's known for its very narrow exposure latitude, which...
I just got developed recently. Maybe we can see something. But yeah, they were perfect exposures, like right off the bat. I don't know if we can see here anything because it's so glary. But
we can see Paul.
He said, no, we can see the colors are coming through.
I can put a white paper behind it. I don't have my light with me. I like that.
Yeah, you can see definitely some good exposures for sure. A lot of color too.
Yeah.
And I honestly fell in love with slide. I haven't scanned these yet, but this looks so much better than negative to me. I don't know how it's going to be afterwards, but it looks really, really promising. I would encourage people to do slide pinholes.
Yeah, I mean, for shooting slide in medium format, 35mm, like,
yeah,
there's a magic to that I always blow my mind. I would never think to risk it.
Yeah, you have to calculate your exposures properly. Like, there's no winging it here because you end up, you have to be spot on.
Yeah, I liked Ribsy's motto in general though, like, you can't overexpose it, right, with a pinhole. Because one thing we haven't touched on yet, and we should do for people who don't know, reciprocity factor of film. Ribsy, you're nodding knowledgeably. Talk us through reciprocity factor.
I wouldn't say knowledgeably, but no. As far as I understand, there's certain film stocks that require additional exposure time as you get longer and longer exposures. That's as much as I can give you. But I can tell you, when I shot those images that you showed earlier, I knew that reciprocity failure was a thing, but that's it. And I knew that I had to account for it. So again, like I said earlier, I was like, all right, just multiply by 1.5, and you can't mess it up. I got lucky.
Elvis, anything to add? Do you have a more technical builds, or does that nail it?
Yeah. I when I calculate my times, I have with my cameras at least, I have a wooden exposure chart with the corresponding times, and I try to incorporate the reciprocity factor into it, but so far I haven't really done really, really long exposures that this would be an issue. And so far, by these numbers that I've included on, nobody has complained that their exposure was off or something like that. But yeah, I think every film has to be tested. If you plan to do something really specific and you don't want to mess it up and so on, it would be nice to do some kind of bracketing. But it's really difficult to do bracketing if you have 40-minute exposures. So.
Exactly, the 45-minute traffic. I'll do one at half an hour. I'll do one at 2 hours.
You just got to bring multiple cameras. Come on.
Maybe this is always the answer. Always the
Stack
answer.
them on each other, you know?
Yeah, because I think I actually had a true reciprocity failure over the Christmas break where I was shooting some ONDU, and it was inside. It was like in a kitchen, playing board games. We're drinking, which might have been why it slipped my mind. And it was shooting on, I think, T-Max 100. And I worked it out properly, and clearly not properly. I worked it out, and then I set it up, and it feels like such a long time. You're like 8 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever it was. You're like, that must have got the image. And they came back, and they were. And then I was like, another 4 minutes would have nailed that.
I find for indoor shots, especially, you cannot overexpose indoor shots in the darkness, especially like if you have light bulbs or whatever, like you can let it go.
This is my new motto, because that was my most disappointing thing. I mean, I'll show a couple of my more successful ones, and these are actually on 35mm, just to give people a bit of a different feel. So this was an indoor one from a couple of Christmases ago, and I think this one I left for about half an hour, and I was really pleased with the way it came out. I'd done other ones that I was trying to be more precise about, but what I really like is, again, the composition. When you don't have a viewfinder, you don't have sort of the SLR view of what the camera will see. You are sort of just aiming it, and then the fact that this came out nicely middled, I don't know, I quite like it.
I like that. The colors look awesome on that.
Yeah. I think the way the reflections came back as well, I didn't necessarily expect, which I enjoyed. And then the second one, this was a daytime one. That again, I really like. We talked earlier about the softness versus the focus. This was a test one. I think it was the start of the film, and I just wound it on and just put it through just to, first roll just of the garden. And actually, it was quite a grey day from memory, and it was quite a dull scene. Like I would never have taken a lensed photo with it. But actually, when I got it back, I really like it, because that was that's like the garden furniture in a house that my wife and I had bought, and we had loads of nice coffees and lunch and stuff out there, and it sort of captured that mood much better than a lens shot would have done at the same time of day and things. So I think it speaks to that atmosphere you can get.
Yeah, I love that the out of focus bits on there actually add this three-dimensionality to it. That's awesome.
Well, I think that's exactly it. Like, I think it would be a really dull photo if everything was in focus.
Yeah.
But because it's not apart from one of the chairs, because of the colours, I don't know. I like it. One of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit was, because we say, pinholes, go back to it, you can make it out of things that are lying around, but there are still some cool things you can do. One thing that I wanted to show was I asked Elvis to send me a video of some of the stuff that goes on in his workshop, because I've seen them before, like in Kickstarter I think you did some. It's really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a video, and Elvis is going to talk through just what you are doing, because you are doing something slightly more complicated than sticking a pin in a shoebox. Right, let me just press and play.
Alright, so here we can see where I glue the actual pinhole apertures, the ones that have been laser drilled, to the actual pinhole holder. It's an aluminum piece, and the actual pinhole is made out of brass. And now you can see me adding felt to protect the inside from light leaks, and also to make it look nicer. And here you can see some raw pieces. We cut everything mostly here in our workshop, what's possible, from also some 3D printed parts, and it's mostly woodworking. And this is an assembly of the 6x12 rises before putting in the inside parts, like the dividers and more magnets and tripod mounts and straps for the bearing. And here's an extra close-up of the baffles to hold light. And this is how our everyday looks like on the assembly phase.
Visit the marketplace.
It's a lot of tedious repetition in the hundreds of batches. And here you can see the CNC running, cutting the aluminum parts.
I think
So
it's you say the repetition, you can see that there, like when there's the rewind knobs that just go into the distance. So you've run, is it 3 Kickstarters?
yeah, this was the third one last year. Yeah.
And if you don't mind me asking, how many cameras do you think you sent out into the world across the last 7 years?
I think roughly around 7,000.
Wow.
It's kind of give or take, but something around that number, yeah.
And people can now buy them in your shop directly. You've got the lovely stock behind you.
Yeah.
Can you just talk through a little bit? And we saw it there, the 3 pinholes. And the first time I saw this, I think on the Kickstarter, I had to sit sort of staring into space for 5 minutes to work out what it meant and why. I mean, I'm assuming not other people are not as thick as me, but do you mind just talking through, just in case anyone else hasn't seen it? Like, why would you ever have a pinhole camera with 3 pinholes?
I'll take one quickly out from the stock, but I'll maybe backtrack a bit to talk about the 3 pinholes and stuff like that. I'm gonna give you a little preview of what was happening in the world way before internet.
Wow.
This was in the 80s. This designer, he's called Peter Olpe. He's from Switzerland, and this book is called Out of Focus. It's his kind of all of his pinhole designs that he's done over the years. So I actually spoke to him about the multiple holes cameras, and I got his permission to do stuff like that in the future. And we even exchanged cameras. I have one of the old days at home, and that's really like, it's so important to me. It's, it's a cardboard camera, like with paper mache around, but it came from him, so it's like, ooh, he's the real pinhole king. Like he gets it. But the idea with the 3 holes is that you can divide your film plane into into thirds. When we compose our shots, we like to think in thirds, and especially with a pinhole camera, if you tilt your camera up to get your horizon lower or the other way around, your vertical lines are going to get distorted. Don't keep horizontal; they go either inwards or outwards. And especially with wider shots, if you use the upper or the lower to offset your horizon, you keep the horizontal line straight. And it's the same thing as with a large format camera, where you have the rise and fall. It's the same thing, just that you open the top or the bottom pinhole.
Because that's when I first saw it, I think that's what threw me. It was like, now you can put the horizon at a different angle. And I was like, for every other camera I've ever used, you just go boom.
Yeah.
But you're saying that leads to crazy distortion.
Yeah.
So what happens if you use all? Can you do all 3 at once?
Yeah. So this year, there's been a few people that have exposed. I was hoping for more experimentation. Like when this came out, I was like, oh, people are gonna go crazy with this, overlap.
Filters on different ones, yeah.
Yeah, not so much. Everybody's a bit hesitant, but this year during quarantine, I had some extra time, and I made like 3D printed dividers that you put inside a Rise camera, and it essentially divides your 6x6 frame into 3 panoramic ones.
Yeah.
You can expose, instead of 12 shots, you can expose 36 shots on a 6x6.
Yeah.
Heather Palasek, she was the first one to take the plunge, and she immediately developed it and like phone scanned everything, and she did really, really good.
Do you have an Instagram handle or anything for people to see that?
It should be also on our Instagram, but Heather Palasek.
Okay. We'll come back to maybe. I'm just making sure I can see it. Oh no, there we go. Wow. Okay, hang on a sec. Let me just share my screen so people can see this.
Yeah.
There we go. So she's got a self-portrait or a portrait in the middle, and then wow.
Oh, that one's from Dan Tree. He just posted that photo yesterday.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but he thanks Heather in this shot because she was the one who did it first, and then he said, "Okay, this looks promising. Let's give it a go."
Oh, here we go. Yes, beg your pardon. The river and the man and the fruit. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's stunning. Thank you so much for that. That's something I definitely wanted to talk about because, as I say, it flummoxed me at the start. That was very simple actually when you say it. So, right then we have a competition to do. Actually, before that, we do want to show. We didn't get actually to your photos, Elvis, and we can't let you go without showing off a couple of yours. So you've chosen a lovely. I mean, by the way, this will make you just fall in love with Slovenia. This whole thing. You have a square 6x6 mountain.
Yeah, but this is not Slovenia.
Oh, phew, I'm not jealous at all then.
Yeah, this is Montenegro on the border with Albania. They're called the Damned Mountains. They were off limits maybe even 15 years ago. And this was in early fall last year with a 6x6. Amazing scenery with nobody around. Like there was just no people. Really, really windy. And I was a bit skeptical that it's going to work because it was really high wind and the exposure time was around.
That is gorgeous. And then you said the last two, you've used filters.
So the latest version of the cameras, it's compatible with either Kukin filters for the series with the 3 pinholes, or 58 or 52 millimeter thread-on filters. They just snap on with magnets also. And this particular one was exposed on Role 400 infrared, and I really like I call it the Martian feel. Like it just that doesn't feel like we're on Earth anymore. And this one is also both of these shots were taken in Montenegro last year, and I think the exposure times were around 25, 30 seconds maybe during bright like summer direct day, and yeah, with an aperture of 160 or something like that. So
they are stunning,
yeah.
and I love. Sorry.
Yeah, this was my first time using infrared. And I forgot to take into account, especially on the first shot, the flare, like the pinhole flare, that is going to be so much more prominent. But it got me thinking. Yeah, do more of that.
They're incredible, and I think as well, going back to one of the earlier points about the creativity, you know, we're saying no films are off limits. Use filters. Is that a train again, Rims? Sorry, that was that. Yeah, you know, use filters, use different films. Don't be scared of slide. Don't be scared of infrared. They might have a different thing, but
yeah.
And on that note, shall we move to the big thing? So, we got together to vote and to judge. So first of all, thanks so much for everyone who have submitted. We didn't realise how many would be coming in, so we thought we could log in 10 minutes early and do it. We logged in an hour before in order to see them all, because they are absolutely stunning. And what we've decided is we can't just have one winner. We will have a grand winner. They will get the camera, they will get the film, but we have also chosen 2 special mentions who are going to get some film from ourselves. We'll send some Analogue Wonderland film out, but also Elvis has once again come up trumps. And Elvis, you're going to throw a couple of films in for the special mentions as well. What film are you going to throw in?
I have some FK films that I bought when the company was going down. So I bought essentially a whole palette of film. And
wow.
So,
and for people who might not know, FK film. What's the background of the company? When did they go under? How long has it been in your freezer?
Yeah, FK has been. I mean, like there's old school photographers, I would call them, that know about FK. They had I think it was done with the old Adox technology with high silver content, really fine grain, super curly. And then they had some stuff like no anti-halogen backing and a lot of infrared and stuff like that. But yeah, in essence, it's really really nice film to work with once you get it going. And I think I bought it in 2014.
Oh, not too bad then. Not too bad.
So
Okay.
it's been in deep freeze since then, so it should be good.
It's exciting. Okay then. So without further ado, let's go to the Here we go. So number 3. Here we go. Full size. Ribs. Do you want to talk through who the artist is?
So I actually cannot see it right now because my phone died.
Church and Vinyl.
Church and Vinyl. Okay. You have to tell me the name. I'm sorry. I don't remember who it is, but I can talk about the photo.
Talk about the photo. Talk about the photo.
All right. Sure. We're doing it live. No, I thought this photo was really interesting. Basically, I was drawn to the motion blur instantly. It's almost like you're in space and like warp time, you know? And then, of course, you've got this central object right in the middle. And I didn't even know there was like a record involved here until Paul kind of pointed it out. And then I was like, oh, that's what's going on. But I just love the creative use of the pinhole here, and the motion plus kind of like the in-focus center is just very, very good all around.
Lovely. It's Pinhole Dodu on Instagram. Taken with a 6x6 ONDU Pinhole camera. Don't know who they are. Ilford Pan F Plus, 20 minutes exposure.
20 minutes, that's incredible.
So congratulations, Pinhole Dodu. We'll contact you through Instagram, and you will get some lovely films and some FK films as well. Okay then, so we then have number 2, The Dam.
Yeah, the dam is just a really beautiful kind of like landscapey, architecture-y kind of mix there. Really good long exposure situation with the water and all that. So it just looks amazing. It was stunning right off the bat, the geometry of it. So I couldn't help but be drawn to that.
Perfect. Do you remember the name?
I don't remember any of the names.
That's okay. Let me find that. While we're doing it, Elvis, do you want to talk through what you've liked about the 2 photos so far?
I already knew the shots from Marie, like from a long time ago. I think I probably shared it on our Instagram as well. And yeah, just there's not much to say. He said already everything. Yeah.
So Marie is Pinhole Dodu.
Yeah.
Ah, Marie, and there she is. I can see on the comments. Hello, Marie. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Hey.
There we go.
The second one is John Farnan.
There we go. Yeah. Great job, John.
John Farnan. Brilliant. So again, John will be getting some films. And then, and then the final one, the grand prize winner. And I think I've seen the winner on the comments. Let's hope they haven't disappeared. Or if they do, let's all take credit for the photo and pretend it was us. This one here, Baby at Warp Speed.
Yeah, I mean, again, the motion blur, but with also a central object directly in the middle in focus. I need to figure that out myself. I want to try that. But also the POV, the viewpoint from the camera is almost like you're wearing a GoPro. And then finally, there's a human in the photo, which I think humans in pinhole photography, some sort of portrait style thing, it's definitely a bit outside of the box. I wouldn't say it's the most common type of pinhole stuff you see. So all around, just a lot of different cool elements coming together into this really kind of like, it's almost like a mundane photo because of like what's happening. I mean, that person's taking their child somewhere, but at the same time, it's just so interesting all at once. Great, fantastic job.
Elvis, anything to add?
That's it. Okay.
It's interesting because I bowed out of the grand judging, partly because I was trying to fix a technical thing and partly, out of morals or something. But that photo of Neil's is one of my favourites of all time. I mean, he added it to an article that he did for us, I think last year, that was about the best films for Pinhole. Spoiler alert, his summary was, shoot whatever you like. But I mean, even when we spoke a couple of days ago, Elvis, I said this photo always just stands out to me as brilliant. So here we go. In fact, we've got all 3. So Marie, Congratulations, Marie. John Farnan, congratulations. Efka Film, I've just died and went to happy heaven, my favourite film stock. Congratulations, John. You will be getting some. And Neil Piper, that's mine, smiley face. Really getting to the nub of the conclusion. No, honestly, congratulations. Huge well done to everyone. 2 people getting film. Neil Piper's getting film. And which camera is he getting? Because I did a typo on the website earlier. Which camera is it?
Multi-format.
It's the what, sorry?
6x12 multi-format.
6x12 multi-format. So what format? 6x12, 6.9 and 6.6.
There you go.
That's it.
Right, Neil, no pressure, but we are expecting brilliant things on Instagram after that.
If Neil wants an engraving, we can put an engraving on as well.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. And if other people want to choose an engraving for Neil, can we do that as well? Or?
Absolutely.
All right, so if people want a special engraving on Neil's behalf, email or message Elvis. Also, Neil, seriously, huge congratulations, buddy. It's a fantastic photo. Pinhole photography resources. There's in the UK, there's the Lensless podcast or Lensless photography podcast that is brilliant. Elvis, Ribs, anything else that you've seen you want to draw people's attention to for helping out with inspiration or education on Pinhole?
Not so much education, but I did see something that I thought was cool that I think people should try more. And it's somebody online was doing street photography with a Pinhole camera, shooting with like super high ISO film and walking the streets just with a Pinhole. So just very different. Again, I'm all about different and trying things that are not the usual.
Yeah, and actually probably anyone who has come through the winners, or if you search Analogue Television hashtag, you will see hundreds of unbelievable Pinhole photos.
Yeah.
Super varied. There was one actually that I think it was Andrew Bartram of him brushing his teeth with a tap.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Elvis, where would you send people?
I would just say to everybody, just even if you don't have a camera, make one. Like, get some photographic paper, just enjoy, have fun. You can Google how to develop paper in coffee. There's so many amazing things you can do with pinhole photography. Just have fun and just explore the pinhole world. It's really nice.
Your enthusiasm is really infectious for this and inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us, Elvis. Really, really appreciate it, especially as this is your last day in the workshop. You have made 7,000 cameras. If people would like an ONDU of various forms, head to the website. Is it ondupinhole.com or ondu.com? What's the...
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Head there and help fund Elvis's retirement as he thinks about the projects that he wants. Ribs, thanks so much as ever, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your self-quarantine. We expect to see your Instagram full of camera obscura prints and things like that. We will stay around to have a little bit of a chat, but we are going to say goodbye to everyone here. Congrats once again to the winners. Huge congrats to Neil. We'll be in touch shortly to arrange your camera and film getting to you. And have wonderful evenings. Bye-bye.
Bye.